Tonight, as a skyrocketing number of Australians struggle with rising mortgage repayments they can't afford, it's been revealed that our banks are making things worse. A new report showing lenders are shirking their responsibility to help borrowers, even in the most dire circumstances.
The people are just a number and they don't realise the individual situations.
They try to make things consciously difficult in order to make their lives easier.
Abandoned in times of crisis.
Banks and lenders are letting Australians down when the hard times hit.
A new report from the corporate watchdog revealing Aussies face an uphill battle to get help from lenders when they need it most. Banks making things so difficult that 1 in 3 customers applying for assistance ends up dropping out.
You cannot deal with hardship applications in a bureaucratic manner. Hardship applications require a nuanced approach.
And the number of Aussies in need of help is soaring, with a 54% jump in home loan hardship in the last quarter of 2023, compared to the same period the year before. Of those who actually managed to claim assistance, 40% fell behind on payments as soon as that help ended.
You've got a right to reach out for assistance and you've got a right to expect a fair response.
But fair is far from what some Aussies are getting. The report detailing one victim of family violence who called her lender to ask for a home loan deferral so she and her daughter could safely move out.
It took 3 phone calls, 3 explanations. 2 of those phone calls, the call was terminated after an hour, and she had to repeat her story several times over.
Another man fell behind on repayments when flooding inundated his area and he was unable to work. It took 6 attempts over 6 months and visiting a branch in person to finally get help.
Families are skipping meals in order to keep the lights on, in order to afford their mortgage.
This afternoon, the banks responded.
Don't be discouraged by this. Every single week there are thousands of Australians accessing hardship support, getting the help they need.
Insisting they had the necessary protocols in place to help customers.
I think people would appreciate that if you're going to have big changes made to your mortgage, that there is going to be some paperwork. But anything we can do to smooth that process, we'll certainly be looking at.
So do banks and lenders owe it to struggling Aussies to do better?
Now, more than ever, customers need their banks to step down alongside them and walk this cost of living crisis with them.
I'm joined now by Alexandra, who's a legal expert in this area. Alexandra, application process, as we just heard in that story, sounds brutal. A third dropping out. Why do you think that is?
I think sometimes there's a lot of onerous questions or a lot of documents being requested for financial information that is just overwhelming. I think there's a real gap sometimes with digital capability, digital access to provide the information. It's also fatiguing for a person to be talking about their financial situation, and it can just result in them feeling overwhelmed, depressed, distressed, and withdraw from the difficulty of the process.
Is that part of the strategy? The banks make it really, really hard to get help so people eventually give up?
I would hope not. The banks have a legal obligation to assist consumers when they're in financial hardship. So I hope that's not an intended strategy to tire consumers out from accessing their legitimate legal rights. I suspect it's probably not that, but more just a loss of sight of the consumer journey and the consumer experience of how financially and emotionally taxing it is when you do fall across hard times.
Well, so banks will say, look, we're not a charity, we're a business. So what do you think is the minimal level of support that a bank should provide to someone who finds themselves in financial stress?
Well, hardship is part of the law. So providing a consumer with access to some options, including reducing payments for a period of time, capitalising arrears on the end of the loan and extending the loan timeframes, do exist as a consumer's legal rights. And I think at a minimum, the bank should be taking those steps to vary contracts where it's clear that a consumer can get back on track and resume making ordinary payments and keeping people in their homes where possible.
Alexandra, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.